How do you respond when your ex-wife and her new husband burst into a settlement meeting demanding half of your $600 million metallurgical company, and then brag the next morning that they burned your headquarters to the ground? What do you say when you drive out to the site, step into the smoke, see the charred metal beams, and smile? This is the story of how I, Drew Holden, the man they called soft, slow, and easy to manipulate, turned their arrogance into their downfall. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The conference room smelled like leather and old coffee. I sat at the far end of the polished table, hands folded, watching the door. My lawyer, Evan Price, adjusted his glasses and tapped a pen against his legal pad. He told me to stay calm no matter what happened. I nodded then. I was nodding now, more to myself than to him. The voices came first, loud, sharp, cutting through the hallway like a blade through sheet metal. "This is ridiculous," Dalia said. I recognized the pitch. High and tight, the way she spoke when she wanted everyone in earshot to know she was right. "We shouldn't even have to be here." "Too right," Grant Keller said. His voice boomed, confident, like a man who'd never been told no. "This whole thing should have been settled weeks ago." The door swung open. Dalia came in first. She wore a cream suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. Her hair was perfect, styled in that way that looked effortless but took an hour. Her heels clicked against the floor like a countdown. Behind her, Grant filled the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a navy blazer that screamed money. Designer watch catching the light. He grinned at me, not friendly, predatory. "Drew," Dalia said. She didn't sit. She stood at the opposite end of the table, hands on her hips. "Let's skip the formalities." Evan cleared his throat. "Mrs. Keller, if we could just begin with—" "It's simple," Grant interrupted. He pulled out a chair, but didn't sit either. He leaned on the back of it, staring at me like I was something he'd already bought. "We want half of the company." The words hung in the air. Heavy, final. I didn't move, didn't blink. "Half," Dalia repeated. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. $600 million. Split down the middle, that's fair. Evan's pen stopped tapping. "Mrs. Keller, Mr. Keller, the settlement discussions were never structured around—" "Fair?" Grant laughed, short and sharp. "Come on, Drew. You know what she did for you, all those years. Building your image, making connections, introducing you to the right people. You think anyone took you seriously because of your awkward handshakes and your steel plant stories?" Dalia nodded. "I made you visible. I made you legitimate. I opened doors you couldn't have opened yourself. You were just running numbers at a factory while other people built the brand, while I built the brand. I watched her. She was good at this, she always had been. Taking credit, reframing history, making people believe her version of the truth. She'd had years to practice, years to convince herself first, then everyone else." "You worked with your father," Grant said, waving his hand dismissively. "Great. Touching story. But that was then. The company is worth $600 million now. Dalia made that happen. She made you relevant. She deserves half." "I'm not giving you half," I said. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Steady, though. That was good. Dalia's smile vanished. "Excuse me?" I said no. Grant pushed off the chair and took a step forward. His jaw tightened. "You think you can just sit there and—" "Mr. Keller," Evan said, standing. His voice was firm, professional. "This is a legal negotiation. Threats won't advance." "Threats?" Grant laughed again. Louder this time. He spread his hands wide, playing to an invisible audience. "Who's threatening anyone? I'm just telling Old Steel here how things are going to go." Old Steel. I felt the phrase land. It was calculated, dismissive. He'd probably practiced it, tested it on friends, watched their reactions, decided it had the right amount of condescension wrapped in familiarity. I didn't react. "Drew?" Dalia said, softening her tone. She took a step closer. Her perfume reached me. Something expensive. Something I used to buy for her. "Be reasonable. You're not good at this. You never were. Business development, negotiations, public relations. That was never your strength. Let us help you make the smart choice here." "My answer is no," I said. Her face went red. The careful mask slipped. "You're making a mistake." "We'll see," I said. Grant pointed at me. His finger stabbed the air. "You're going to regret this. I promise you that." "Noted," I said. They left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the glass in the frame. The sound echoed in the small room. Evan sat back down slowly. He exhaled through his nose, removed his glasses, cleaned them with a cloth from his pocket. "Well, yeah," I said. "They're not going to let this go." "I know." He looked at me, really looked at me. "You sure about this? Because if they escalate..." "I'm sure. There are other ways. Compromises. We could structure something that gives them a payout without touching the core." "No." He nodded, put his glasses back on. "All right then, I'll prepare for the next phase." We wrapped up the meeting. Evan walked me to the elevator. He said something about filing motions and scheduling depositions, but I wasn't listening. My mind was already somewhere else, tracking forward, calculating. I left the building and walked 2 blocks to a small cafe. It was the kind of place where people worked on laptops and pretended not to eavesdrop on the conversations around them. I ordered black coffee and sat by the window. The afternoon light slanted through the glass. People walked past outside, busy, purposeful, living their lives. The table next to me had 3 people, young, mid-30s maybe, business casual. They were laughing about something. One of them had his phone out, scrolling. "Did you hear about Drew Holden?" one of them said. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my mouth. "Who?" another asked. "The metallurgical guy. Old steel." There it was again, the phrase spreading, going viral in small circles. "Oh yeah," the third one said. "Grant Keller's new wife's ex-husband, right? That whole mess?" "Exactly. Grant says the guy's a dinosaur, just sitting on a company he inherited. Doesn't even know how to run it properly, living off his father's work." They laughed. Not cruel exactly, just casual. The way people laugh at someone they don't know and will never meet. I sipped my coffee. It tasted like ash. I sat there for another 20 minutes, watching people, listening to fragments of other conversations. No one else mentioned me. No one else cared. I went home. My townhouse was quiet, small, nothing like the mansion Dalia and I used to share. That place had 6 bedrooms, a pool, a 3-car garage. This place had what I needed: a kitchen, a bedroom, an office, space to think. I hung my jacket on the hook by the door and stood in the kitchen for a long time. The silence pressed in. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock on the wall ticking, my own breathing. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out, a calendar notification. Holding structure review with Evan and Samira. I stared at it, the reminder I'd set months ago, back when this was all just theory, just planning, just preparation for a scenario I hoped wouldn't happen. I smiled. Not yet, but soon. I stood in my home office. The room was small, a desk pushed against the wall, a chair that creaked when I sat, shelves lined with binders. Some of them went back 30 years. My father's handwriting was on a few of the spines, neat, precise. Labels like Contracts 1987 and Equipment Specs, original. The way he did everything, organized, methodical. There was a photo on the desk, him and me, standing in front of one of the old blast furnaces. I was maybe 25 in the picture, skinny, uncomfortable in the hard hat. He had his arm around my shoulder, both of us squinting against the sun. His face was weathered, lined, proud. He'd built the company from almost nothing, bought a failing plant in the 80s when everyone said he was crazy. Interest rates were high. The steel industry was collapsing. Foreign competition was crushing domestic producers. But he saw something, saw potential in the location, in the equipment, in the workers who'd been laid off and were desperate for another chance. He worked 16-hour days, learned every part of the process, started on the floor himself, operated machinery, fixed broken equipment, negotiated with suppliers who didn't want to extend credit. By the time I graduated college, Holden Metallurgical was supplying half the construction firms in the region. I joined him right after school, started on the floor. He insisted on it. "You don't manage from a desk," he said. "You manage from where the work happens." So I learned, worked my way up, spent 2 years on the production line, another year in quality control, then logistics, then contracts. I wasn't a natural like he was. I didn't have his instinct for the metal, the way he could look at a batch and know if the temperature was right, if the mixture was correct. But I showed up. I listened. I earned the respect of the floor managers, the guys who ran the lines, the operators who knew the machines better than anyone. When he handed me the company, he didn't make it a ceremony. No board meeting, no announcement. He just walked me into his office one day and said, "It's yours now. Don't screw it up." I didn't. The company grew. Contracts expanded. We updated equipment, invested in new technology, hired good people. By the time I met Dalia, Holden Metallurgical was worth $100 million. She thought I was boring at first. I remember that. We met at a charity event my mother dragged me to, some fundraiser for the arts. I was standing by the bar, trying to look interested in a conversation about sculpture. Dalia was working in public relations, smart, beautiful, sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything. She talked fast, made me laugh, asked questions that made me think. I thought she liked me for me. Maybe she did, at first. But over time, things changed. She started pushing me to dress differently. "You need better suits," she'd say. "Something that shows success." She wanted me to host bigger events, hire consultants, bring in strategists. "You need to modernize," she'd say. "People don't take you seriously when you show up looking like a factory foreman." I did some of it. I wore the suits, Italian, expensive. I went to the dinners, smiled for the cameras, shook hands with people whose names I forgot 5 minutes later. But I always felt like I was pretending, like I was playing a role in someone else's movie. Grant showed up about 3 years into the marriage. He called himself a business strategist. Dalia hired him to streamline operations. I didn't like him from the start. Too loud, too confident. He took credit for deals the plant managers and I had already put together. He talked about the company like he'd built it himself, like he understood it better than I did. Dalia loved him. I could see it. The way she lit up when he walked into a room, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way she deferred to him during meetings, asking his opinion before mine. I didn't say anything. I just kept working, kept running the numbers, kept making sure the plant operated smoothly. The contracts got signed, the clients stayed happy. They started the affair about a year before the separation. I knew, I'm not stupid. The late meetings, the business trips that didn't quite add up, the way she stopped asking about my day, stopped touching my hand at dinner, stopped pretending. I just didn't want to fight. I was tired of pretending, tired of being told I wasn't enough, wasn't modern enough, wasn't social enough, wasn't whatever she'd decided I needed to be. When she asked for the separation, I agreed. I thought it would be clean, fair, adult. I'd keep the company. She'd take a reasonable settlement. We'd both move on with our lives. Then she married Grant, and everything changed. The demands started small, requests for financial records, questions about asset valuation. Then the lawyers got involved. Then the threats. Then the public statements about how I owed her, how she'd sacrificed, how she deserved more. I closed the photo album and looked at the safe in the corner of the office. Small, gray, bolted to the floor. I hadn't opened it in weeks. Didn't need to. I knew what was inside: documents, contracts, a USB drive with backups. Everything organized, everything ready. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out. A text from my mother. "Can I come by?" I sighed, typed back. "Sure." She arrived 30 minutes later. Irene Holden was 68. Small, barely 5 feet tall, silver hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a cardigan despite the warm weather and sensible shoes that made no sound on the floor. She looked worried. She always looked worried lately. "Drew," she said, sitting on the couch. "I've been thinking about the settlement. Mom? Just listen." She leaned forward, her hands twisted in her lap. "Dalia is going to take everything. You know that, right? She and that man. They're going to destroy what your father built, what you've worked for." "She's not." "You're too kind," she said. Her voice cracked. "You always have been. Even when you were a boy, you let people walk all over you. You never fought back." "I'm not letting anyone walk over me." "Then fight," she said. "Please. Your father built that company with his bare hands. You've kept it running, kept it growing. Don't let her destroy it because you're too nice to say no." I reached over and took her hand. It was small, fragile. "I won't." She searched my face, looking for something: assurance, strength, proof. "Promise me." "I promise." She stayed for tea. We talked about other things: the weather, her garden, the tomatoes coming in, a problem with her neighbor's fence. She left an hour later, still worried, still afraid I'd lose, that I'd give in, that I was too soft for this fight. I wasn't going to lose. The next morning, I drove to the plant. It was on the edge of the city. 20 acres of warehouses, furnaces, and rolling lines. Chain-link fence around the perimeter. The main gate was rusted but sturdy. The guard waved me through. He'd worked there for 12 years, knew my car. I parked near the administrative trailer and walked inside. Leo Grant was waiting. No relation to Grant Keller. just a coincidence that made phone calls occasionally confusing. Leo was 40, broad-shouldered, gray hair starting at the temples, permanent squint from years of checking gauges in bright light. He'd been with the company for 15 years, started as an operator, worked his way up, one of the best managers I'd ever worked with. "Morning, Drew," he said. "Morning." "Want to walk the floor?" "Yeah." We went outside. The heat hit me first. Even in the morning, the furnaces radiated warmth that made the air shimmer. The smell of molten metal and oil filled my lungs. Familiar, grounding. The sound was constant. Machinery humming. Conveyor belts moving. Orders being shouted across the floor. The clang of metal on metal. Leo showed me the new rolling line. Stainless steel today. The sheets moving through at a steady pace. "Running smooth," he said. "We're ahead of schedule on the Peterson contract." "Good." We walked past the main furnace. A crew was tapping a heat. The metal glowed orange, almost white at the center. Beautiful and dangerous. I could feel the heat from 20 feet away. One of the operators nodded at me. I nodded back. "Dalia ever come out here?" Leo asked. "No." "Grant?" "Never." Leo nodded. "Figured. This place makes them uncomfortable." "They don't understand this," I said. "They see the company as numbers on a balance sheet. Revenue, assets, market value. They don't see the people, the process, the work." "That's why they'll lose," Leo said. I looked at him. "You think so?" "Yeah," he said. "You're not the kind of guy who gives up. You're the kind who waits, plans, then moves." I smiled. "Thanks, Leo." We finished the walk. I spent another hour in the office reviewing production schedules and client contracts. Everything was solid. Orders booked through next quarter, new contracts pending. The plant was the heart of the company, always had been. The downtown administrative building was different. It was image, a place for meetings, for impressing clients who didn't want to drive out to the industrial zone, for showing off. Dalia had insisted we lease it 5 years ago. "You need a real headquarters," she'd said. "Something downtown, something visible." I'd agreed. It made her happy. Made sense at the time. But the real work, that happened here, at the plant. I drove home that evening. The sun was setting, orange light across the sky. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the driveway. A group chat notification. Fair split discussion. I opened it. Dalia and Grant had added me to a new chat. The preview showed Grant's message. "Drew's too scared to stand without us. Time to make him see reason." I stared at the screen for a moment, then put the phone down. Not scared. Just waiting. The voice message came at 6 in the morning. I was standing in the kitchen, starting the coffee maker, when my phone lit up on the counter. Dalia's name flashed on the screen. A voice message. 42 seconds long. I almost didn't listen. But I did. Her voice was bright. Excited. Like she just won something. Like a child showing off a prize. "Drew," she said, "you should check the news. Grant and I had a productive night. Very productive." Grant's voice in the background, laughing, loud. "Tell him. Go ahead. Tell him what we did." "We burned your building down," Dalia said. Then she laughed, high and sharp, the kind of laugh that doesn't sound human. The call ended with a click. I stood there, coffee dripping into the pot. The sound of it suddenly too loud in the quiet kitchen. My phone buzzed again, a news alert. "Fire engulfs Holden Metallurgical Headquarters. Investigators on scene." I tapped the link. A video played. Flames tearing through the old administrative building downtown. Orange and red against the dark sky. Smoke pouring upward in thick columns. Firefighters spraying water that seemed to evaporate before it touched the flames. A reporter standing at a safe distance, microphone in hand, face lit by the glow. The building, which houses the offices of Holden Metallurgical, has been burning since approximately 3 a.m. Authorities have not yet determined the cause, but the structure is considered a total loss. We're told the building was unoccupied at the time, and no injuries have been reported. I set the phone down, poured the coffee into a plain white mug, drank it black, no sugar, no cream, just bitter and hot. Then I grabbed my keys and drove. The radio played the story on repeat. Every station, they talked about the company, about me, about how the fire could cripple operations. Some financial analysts came on and speculated about insurance, about lawsuits, about whether the business could recover from this kind of setback. A caller phoned in to say he'd driven past the building yesterday and noticed it looked old. Probably faulty wiring, he said with the confidence of someone who knew nothing. I turned the radio off. The city was waking up. Traffic was light. The sun was just starting to rise, pink and gold at the edges of the sky. I took the long route, past the park where I used to run, past the old neighborhoods with houses built in the 30s. I wasn't in a hurry. I stopped at the hotel bar where Grant liked to drink. It was closed, of course. Too early. But I sat in the parking lot for a minute, checked my phone, scrolled through social media. Someone had already posted a clip online. Grant's voice, recorded from the bar the night before. The person filming had captioned it. Guy bragging about something big. Drew Holden's finished, Grant said in the video. His voice was slurred, confident. He's got nothing now. We made sure of that. Laughter in the background. Male voices. Someone asked what he meant. Let's just say his building won't be a problem anymore. More laughter. Grant raising a glass. To new beginnings. I saved the video, didn't share it, didn't comment, didn't react. Just saved it to a folder on my phone. Then I drove to the site. The smell hit me first. Smoke, wet ash, burning plastic and chemicals. The building was still smoldering. Fire trucks lined the street. Police tape cordoned off the entire block. A crowd had gathered. News crews with cameras and satellite vans. Onlookers with their phones out, recording everything. Someone selling coffee from a cart. I parked a block away and walked up. A uniformed officer stopped me at the tape. Young, maybe 25. Sir, you can't cross. I own the building, I said. He looked at me, then at the scene behind him, then back at me. Hold on. He radioed someone. A detective in a rumpled suit walked over. 50-something. Tired eyes. He carried a notebook and a pen that looked like it had been chewed. You're Drew Holden? Yes. I'm Detective Marsh. We've been trying to reach you. I just got the message. He gestured for me to follow him. We walked closer to the wreckage. The heat was still intense, waves of it rolling off the blackened structure. The building's front facade had collapsed inward. The roof was completely gone, just open sky above twisted beams and charred walls. Water pooled on the ground, dark with soot. Everything smelled like chemicals and burnt wood and something else I couldn't identify. Any idea who might have done this? Marsh asked. He was watching my face carefully. I have some thoughts. Care to share? Not yet. He studied me, scratched something in his notebook. You're taking this pretty calmly. I'm still processing. Fair enough. He handed me a card. Detective Raymond Marsh. A phone number, an email address. We'll need a full statement. Soon. Today, if possible. I'll come by tomorrow. He nodded. Tomorrow morning, then. 9 o'clock. Don't make me chase you. I won't. He walked off, back toward the other investigators. I stood at the edge of the tape. People were watching me, waiting for a reaction, waiting for me to break down, to scream, to collapse, to show emotion. I looked at the building, at the smoke still rising in thin gray streams, at the blackened walls and shattered windows, at the twisted metal skeleton that used to be the entrance, and I smiled. Not big, just a small curve at the corner of my mouth, barely visible. But there. A woman next to me noticed. Mid-40s, expensive coat. She'd been recording the scene on her phone. Why are you smiling? I didn't answer. Just turned and walked back to my car. Her voice followed me. Excuse me, sir? Why are you smiling? I got in, started the engine, drove away. My phone rang as I reached the first intersection. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Holden, this is Captain Ellis with the Fire Investigation Unit. We need to schedule a time to speak with you as soon as possible. Yes, I said. I could still see the smoke in my rearview mirror. I've been expecting your call. The Fire Investigation Office was tucked into a municipal building downtown. 3rd floor, gray walls, fluorescent lights that hummed. The kind of place that felt both permanent and temporary, like it had been there forever and could disappear tomorrow. I sat in a small interview room. A table, 4 chairs, a mirror on one wall that was probably two-way. Detective Marsh was there. So was a woman named Torres from the arson unit. She had short dark hair and sharp eyes that never stopped moving. She didn't waste time. Mr. Holden, she said, opening a folder. Walk us through what that building was used for. Administrative functions, I said. Leasing office, meeting rooms, some filing. Operations? No. The plant handles all production. Manufacturing, shipping, everything operational happens there. Torres glanced at Marsh, then back at me. So this building was for... Image, I said. Client meetings, presentations, a downtown presence. My ex-wife thought it was important. Your ex-wife, Marsh said, flipping through his own notes. Dalia Keller, formerly Dalia Holden. Yes. You're in the middle of a settlement dispute, Torres said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Contentious? You could say that. Torres leaned forward. Do you have any enemies, Mr. Holden? Anyone who might want to hurt your business? I have some ideas. Names? I looked at her. I'd rather have evidence first. We can't investigate without leads, Marsh said. Then investigate the building, I said. Check accelerants, check entry points, check security footage from the surrounding buildings. The evidence is there. Torres tapped her pen on the table. You seem very calm about this. Would you prefer I wasn't? Most people whose business just burned down show more emotion. I'm processing in my own way. She didn't look convinced, but she moved on. We spent another 30 minutes going through details. When I'd last been to the building, who had access, what was stored there, insurance information. I answered everything directly, gave them what they needed, nothing more. When we finished, Marsh walked me out. We'll be in touch, he said. Don't leave town. I won't. I drove to Evan Price's law office. It was in a newer building, glass and steel. His firm occupied the 8th floor. The receptionist knew me, smiled. He's expecting you. Evan's office had a view of the river, bookshelves lined with legal texts, a desk organized to the point of obsession. He stood when I came in. I saw the news, he said. Everyone did? Sit. He gestured to a chair. Tell me everything. I told him about the voice message, the video, the fire, the investigators. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back. They're not subtle, he said. No. That works in our favor. I know. He pulled out a folder. Thick, organized with colored tabs. We need to talk about the structure we discussed months ago. The holding company. Yes. He opened the folder but didn't show me the contents. Not yet. The filings you completed before the separation talks began. They're all in order. And the building? The burned building was owned by the shell company created for settlement negotiations, exactly as planned. I nodded. Good. The core assets, the plant, the patents, the key contracts, those are all under the protected holding company. Separate entity, separate ownership structure. You're the majority owner. Sole owner, I said. Sole owner, he confirmed. Dalia and Grant can't touch it. Even with the settlement? Especially with the settlement. They insisted on targeting the downtown operations, the administrative entity. That's what they wanted half of. And that's what burned. Exactly. We sat in silence for a moment, the implications settling. We need to be careful, Evan said. If they find out about the restructuring before we're ready, they won't. How can you be sure? Because they're too busy celebrating. He smiled, small, professional. When do you want to reveal it? Not yet. Let them dig deeper. Let them brag more. Let them think they've won. The fire investigation? Will take time. I'll cooperate fully, give them everything they need. And the insurance? I'll file the claim. Standard process. Evan nodded, made a note. What about the bank? They'll want assurances. That's next. I left his office and drove to the bank. Downtown branch, corporate banking division. I had a meeting scheduled with the regional manager. His name was Patterson. 55, nervous smile, thinning hair. Mr. Holden, he said, shaking my hand. Terrible news about the fire. Yes. We sat in a conference room. Glass walls overlooking the main floor. He had a laptop open. Spreadsheets. We've been reviewing your accounts. Given the circumstances, the plant is still operating, I said. He blinked. I'm sorry? Production hasn't stopped. Contracts are being fulfilled. Shipments are on schedule. But the headquarters was administrative, not operational. I see. He typed something, frowned. Our records show significant assets tied to that property. Your records are outdated. Outdated? We discussed this during the asset review last quarter, remember? He scrolled through something. His frown deepened. The holding company restructure. Yes. That was finalized? Months ago. He looked up at me. Really looked at me. So, the burned building? Wasn't the core asset? And the plant? Is protected under a separate entity. Different loan covenants. Different structure. He sat back. I need to review this with my team. Of course. Take your time. The door opened. Samira Cole walked in. My CFO. 38. Quiet, analytical. She carried a tablet and a folder. Sorry, I'm late. Samira, Patterson said. I was just discussing. The restructuring, she said. Yes, I have the updated financials here. Production at the plant is actually up 3% this quarter. The Peterson contract is ahead of schedule. No operational disruptions. She set the tablet on the table, turned it so Patterson could see. Charts, numbers. Everything clean and organized. He studied them. This is remarkable. The plant is the heart of the company, Samira said. Always has been. And the downtown building? Was mostly empty, she said. We'd been consolidating operations for months, moving filing to digital, reducing overhead. So the loss is primarily structural, insured, not operational. Patterson looked between us. I wish all my clients were this prepared. We try, I said. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. Assurances given, concerns addressed. Patterson promised to update their internal records. Outside, Samira walked with me to the parking garage. That went well, she said. Thanks for coming. Of course. She paused. Have you heard from Dalia? Not since the voice message. She's posting on social media, talking about how you've lost everything. Let her. Drew, let her talk. Let them both talk. It helps us. She nodded slowly. You have a plan. I always have a plan. She smiled. Your father taught you well. I drove home. The sun was setting. Long shadows across the streets. My phone buzzed constantly. Messages, emails, people expressing sympathy, people asking questions. I ignored most of them. One text stood out, from a number I didn't recognize. They're not done yet. Be careful. I stared at it, then deleted it. I knew they weren't done. That was the point. I sat in my kitchen. The house was dark except for the light over the table. I'd spread folders across the surface, colored tabs, organized labels, each one containing pieces of the structure Evan and I had built over the past year. Property deeds, holding company articles, asset transfer documents, loan modifications, insurance policies, everything organized, everything legal, everything documented. I didn't read them. I'd read them 100 times already. Memorized the details, understood the implications. Tonight, I just needed to see them, to know they were real, to remind myself that this wasn't luck, it was preparation. My father used to say that steel was simple. Heat it enough, and it becomes workable. Shape it right, and it becomes strong. Let it cool wrong, and it becomes brittle. The trick was knowing how much heat, how much pressure, how much time. People weren't different. I closed the folders and stacked them neatly. Then I walked to my home office, small room, desk, chair. The safe in the corner. I knelt down, spun the dial. The lock clicked open. Inside was a thick manila envelope, legal size, sealed, and a small USB drive in a plastic case. I didn't take them out, just looked at them, made sure they were still there, still ready. Then I closed the safe, locked it, stood up. Tomorrow I would let the systems they respected do the talking, the contracts, the titles, the legal structures. Not me, never me. That's what they expected. That's what they wanted. A fight, an emotional response, something they could use against me. I wouldn't give them that. My phone rang. My mother. Drew, she said. Her voice was tight. I've been trying to reach you all day. I know, I'm sorry. The building, the fire. Is it true? Yes. Oh, God. She was crying now, soft. Your father's company, everything he built. Mom, listen to me. They destroyed it. Dalia and that man, they destroyed it. Mom, what are you going to do? I'm going to be fine. How? How can you be fine? They burned your business to the ground. I need you to trust me. Silence. Then, what do you mean? I can't explain right now, but I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. Drew, please. More silence. I could hear her breathing, thinking. You sound like your father. Good. He always had a plan. Yes. Do you have a plan? Yes. And you can't tell me? Not yet. Soon. She exhaled. All right, I trust you, but Drew? Yes? Don't be too nice. Don't let them walk away from this. I won't. We talked for a few more minutes. I promised to visit, to keep her updated, to be careful. When we hung up, I sat in the darkness for a long time. The house was quiet, no traffic outside, no neighbors, just silence. I thought about Dalia, about Grant. about the way they'd looked at me in that conference room, like I was nothing, like I was obsolete, old steel. I thought about the fire, the smoke, the twisted beams, the people watching me, waiting for me to break. I thought about tomorrow, about the briefing, about standing in front of cameras and investigators and letting them see exactly what I wanted them to see. At midnight, I made a decision. I needed to see it one more time, the place where it would all happen. I drove downtown. The streets were empty. A few cars, some late-night delivery trucks. The burned building was still cordoned off, police tape fluttering in the wind, security lights illuminating the wreckage. I parked across the street, got out, walked to the tape. A police officer was on duty, different one from earlier, older. He watched me approach. "Evening," I said. "Evening. You need something?" "I own the building." He looked at me, then at the ruins. "Rough day." "Yeah." "You gonna rebuild?" "Maybe." He nodded, didn't push it. I stood there, looking at the skeleton of the structure. The crews had finished their work earlier. Now it was just standing wreckage. Dangerous, unstable, waiting to be demolished. Tomorrow there would be cameras here, microphones, questions. Dalia and Grant would probably show up, make a scene, play victims, demand answers, and I would give them answers, just not the ones they expected. I noticed something on the ground near the tape, a piece of paper, soggy from the water. I picked it up. It was a flyer from the building, old, probably been there for weeks. It advertised the company. Holden Metallurgical, building America's future. Dalia had made those, insisted on them, part of the image campaign. I crumpled it, dropped it in a trash can, walked back to my car. On the way home, I stopped at a 24-hour diner, sat at the counter, ordered coffee and eggs. The waitress was young, tired. She filled my cup without asking. A TV in the corner played the late news. The fire was still a top story. The anchor talked about economic impact, about jobs, about whether the company would survive. A man 2 stools down leaned over. "You see that? Holden Metallurgical. Buddy of mine works there, says the owner's ex-wife did it." "That right?" I said. "Yeah, settlement dispute. She wanted money. He wouldn't pay. So she torched the place." "Sounds complicated." "Rich people problems," he said. Shook his head. Rest of us just trying to get by. I nodded, finished my coffee, left cash on the counter. At home, I checked my phone one more time. An email from Evan. Subject line, "Tomorrow." I opened it. "Everything is ready. Documents are organized, bank is informed, insurance rep will be present, fire investigators have been briefed that you'll make a statement. This is it. Don't hesitate." I closed the email, set the phone aside, took a shower, long, hot. Let the water wash away the smell of smoke that had been following me all day. In bed, I stared at the ceiling, thought about my father, about the company, about everything that led to this moment. I thought about Leo at the plant, about the workers who depended on the company, about the contracts and the clients and the future. I thought about Dalia's voice on that message, bright, excited, proud of what she'd done. Then, and I thought about tomorrow, about standing at that burned site, about revealing what they'd actually destroyed. I smiled in the darkness, and I slept better than I had in months. I woke at 5, showered, dressed in plain work clothes, jeans, a button-down shirt, work boots, the kind of outfit I wore to the plant. Nothing fancy, nothing designed to impress. I made coffee, strong, drank it standing by the kitchen window. The sun was just starting to rise. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, a video file. I opened it. Grant, in the hotel bar. Last night, someone had filmed him again. He was drunk, louder than the first video. "The insurance money will be ours too," he said, laughing. Glass raised. "Holden's going to have to pay us to rebuild his precious company? We're going to take everything." Dalia was beside him, smiling, not talking, just watching him with admiration. "He thought he could say no to us," Grant continued. "Thought he was tough, old steel breaks, baby. And we broke him." More laughter. I saved the video, added it to the folder labeled Morning. Then I opened my contacts, found the email for the fire investigator, for the insurance representative, for Detective Marsh. I typed a simple message. "Additional evidence attached, relevant to yesterday's incident. Please review before this morning's briefing." I attached both videos, sent it to all 3. Then I grabbed my keys and drove to the site. The briefing was scheduled for 9. I arrived at 8:30. Camera crews were already setting up. News vans lined the street. Reporters doing sound checks. Someone had erected a small platform near the burned building. Microphones on a stand. Detective Marsh saw me, walked over. He was holding his phone. Got your email. Good. The videos. That's Grant Keller? Yes. He's admitting to arson. Sounds like it. Marsh looked at the platform, at the cameras. This briefing just got complicated. I'll keep it simple. Will you? I'll tell the truth. Torres joined us. She looked tired. Mr. Holden, we need to coordinate statements. Coordinate? This is an active arson investigation now. Criminal case. We can't have you compromising it. I'll talk about the property, the structure, the business. You talk about the investigation. She didn't look happy, but she nodded. Fine. But if you deviate, I won't. A car pulled up. Expensive. Black SUV. Dalia and Grant got out. Designer clothes. Grant in a charcoal suit. Dalia in a navy dress. They looked like victims. They saw me. Grant's face lit up. He said something to Dalia. She smiled. They walked over. Confident. A lawyer trailed behind them. Drew, Grant said, loud enough for people to hear. Terrible thing. Just terrible. I didn't respond. We're here to support you, Dalia said. False sympathy dripping. Whatever you need. I don't need anything from you. Grant laughed. Still proud. Even now. Even after losing everything. I haven't lost anything. Your building burned down, he said, gesturing at the ruins. Your headquarters, your company. Face it, Drew. You're finished. Am I? Something in my tone made him pause. Before they could respond, the insurance representative approached. Patterson from the bank was with him, and Samira. Mr. Holden, the insurance rep said. We need to finalize details before the briefing. Of course. We moved away from Dalia and Grant. I could feel them watching. The claim documentation, the rep said quietly. It's unusual. How so? The property ownership. The building that burned was owned by Holden Administrative Holdings, a shell company created 6 months ago. Correct. And the core operations? Separate entity. Holden Manufacturing Holdings. Different structure. Different ownership. He nodded. This changes things. Any insurance payout goes to the shell company. But your ex-wife was claiming that entity in settlement negotiations. Yes. So they destroyed what they were trying to take. Exactly, Patterson spoke up. The bank's position is secure. The plant, the contracts, those are all protected under the manufacturing entity. And I'm sole owner of that entity, I said. Yes. The insurance rep looked at Dalia and Grant. Do they know? Not yet. When are you planning to? Now. It was time. The briefing started at 9 sharp. Detective Marsh stepped to the microphone first. Camera flashes. The crowd pressed closer. Thank you for coming, he said. At approximately 3 a.m. yesterday, a fire was reported at this location. The building, owned by Holden Administrative Holdings, sustained total loss. We're treating this as arson. We have evidence. We have suspects. Murmurs from the crowd. Cameras swinging. Dalia and Grant stood off to the side. Grant's smile faded. We'll provide updates as the investigation continues, Marsh said. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Drew Holden. I stepped to the microphone. The cameras turned to me. I could see Dalia's face, confident, expectant. She thought I was about to beg, to collapse, to admit defeat. Thank you, Detective, I said. My voice was steady, calm. I want to clarify some things about this building and my company. I pulled out a folder, set it on the stand. 6 months ago, I restructured Holden Metallurgical. The company was split into 2 entities, Holden Administrative Holdings and Holden Manufacturing Holdings. Grant stepped forward. What are you? The administrative entity, I continued, owned this building. Downtown offices, meeting space, filing. It was created specifically for settlement negotiations with my ex-wife and her husband. Dalia's face went pale. They demanded half of my company. They insisted on targeting the administrative entity. The downtown operations, the visible headquarters. I opened the folder, pulled out documents. These are the property records, filed 6 months ago. The building that burned belonged to the shell company, the entity they wanted half of. Grant pushed forward. That's not... The real company, I said. Holden Manufacturing Holdings owns the plant. The equipment, the patents, the client contracts, the actual business, and I'm the sole owner of that entity. The crowd erupted. Questions shouted, cameras flashing. Dalia grabbed Grant's arm. Their lawyer looked stunned. So, what they burned, a reporter called out, was the building they were trying to claim? Yes. And the real company is fine. Production hasn't stopped. Contracts are being fulfilled. Workers are employed. Samira stepped forward. Our Q3 numbers are actually up. The plant is operating at full capacity. Patterson from the bank nodded. The core assets are secured and performing well. Grant was red-faced now. This is manipulation. You moved assets to hide them from a legal settlement. I restructured my company legally, I said, with proper documentation, filed with the state, reviewed by the bank, all above board. You did this to cheat Dalia. I did this to protect what my father built. The insurance representative stepped forward. Any insurance payout for this building goes to the administrative entity, the shell company, not to Mr. Holden personally. And that company, I said, was the one Dalia and Grant demanded half of in settlement negotiations. The implications settled. Dalia looked like she might be sick. So they destroyed, a reporter said slowly, their own settlement claim. They destroyed an empty building with minimal value, I said, while threatening to take half of an entity that no longer held the real assets. Detective Marsh stepped forward. We also have evidence regarding who started the fire. He nodded to Torres. She held up a tablet. We received video evidence this morning, recorded statements from Grant Keller, made in a public bar, admitting to burning the building. She played the first video, Grant's voice booming through the speakers. We burned your building down. Gasps from the crowd. Then the second video. The insurance money will be ours too. Holden's going to have to pay us to rebuild. We're going to take everything. The crowd turned, cameras swinging to Dalia and Grant. That's taken out of context, Grant shouted. You're on video, Marsh said, admitting to arson, admitting to insurance fraud. Their lawyer tried to pull them back. Don't say anything, don't. We were trying to help, Dalia said. Her voice was shrill, desperate. Drew was failing. We were trying to force him to accept a fair settlement. By burning his building, a reporter called out. It wasn't his real building, Grant shouted. He said it himself. It was just a shell. So you knew, I said quietly. Grant froze. You knew it was a shell company. You knew it didn't hold the real assets, and you burned it anyway. You thought you destroyed my leverage. You thought I'd be forced to settle, to give you what you wanted. Dalia stepped forward. You manipulated us. I protected myself. You made us look like fools. You made yourselves criminals. Detective Marsh moved toward them. Mr. Keller, Mrs. Keller, we need you to come to the station. We have questions. We're not going anywhere, Grant said. You can come voluntarily or we can make it official. Your choice. Their lawyer grabbed Grant's arm. Don't make this worse. Torres stepped forward. 2 uniformed officers behind her. This way, please. The cameras followed them. Dalia was crying now. Grant was shouting. Something about lawyers, about rights, about how this was all a setup. I stood at the microphone, watching them go. A reporter turned to me. Mr. Holden, how does it feel? I don't feel anything yet, I said. I'm just glad the truth is out. Will you rebuild the administrative building? No, there's no need. What about the settlement? There won't be one, not on their terms. And your company? Will continue, like it always has. I stepped away from the microphone. The questions kept coming, but I didn't answer. Just walked to my car. Samira caught up to me. That was incredible. It was necessary. The workers will be relieved. Good. That's what matters. She smiled. Walked back to the crowd. I got in my car, started the engine, looked at the burned building one more time, then I drove away. The story exploded. By noon, every news outlet had picked it up. Social media was flooded. Analysis, commentary, legal experts weighing in. The narrative was simple, clear, satisfying. Ex-wife and her new husband try to extort half of a company. Owner legally protects his assets. They burn a building in revenge, accidentally destroy their own settlement claim, get caught on video admitting to the crime. I sat in my office at the plant, watching it unfold on my computer. Leo knocked on the door. You see this? He asked. Yeah. Everyone's talking about it. The crews, management, they're calling you a genius. I'm not a genius. I just prepared. Same thing sometimes. He sat down. The orders are holding. Clients are calling. They want to confirm we're still operating. We are. I know. I told them. They're relieved. I nodded. Good. Drew, he said, what you did, protecting the company like that. Your father would be proud. I felt something in my chest. Tight, warm. Thanks, Leo. He left. I sat alone for a moment. Then my phone rang. My mother. Drew, she said. Her voice was different, lighter. I saw the news. Yeah. You had a plan? I did. The whole time. You knew what they were going to do. I didn't know they'd burn the building, but I knew they'd escalate. I knew they'd try something. And you prepared for it. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then, your father would be so proud. Leo just said the same thing. Because it's true. She paused. I'm sorry I doubted you. You didn't doubt me. You were worried. That's different. Still, I should have trusted you. You did, when it mattered. We talked for a while longer. She was crying, but happy, relieved. When we hung up, I felt lighter. Evan called next. Have you seen your email? He asked. Not yet. Check it, now. I opened my laptop. Pulled up email. The top message was from Dalia's lawyer. Subject, withdrawal of settlement claim. I opened it. On behalf of Dalia Keller, we are formally withdrawing all settlement claims against Drew Holden and any associated entities. We acknowledge that the legal restructuring of Holden Metallurgical was conducted properly and within legal bounds. We will not pursue further action. I read it twice. They're done, Evan said. Just like that? They have no choice. Their lawyer knows they have no case, especially now that they're facing criminal charges. What about the arson investigation? Marsh called me. They're filing charges. Arson, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Both of them. Good. Drew, this is over. You won. I sat back in my chair, stared at the ceiling. Yeah, you should celebrate. Maybe later. At least take the rest of the day off. I'll think about it. We hung up. I sat in the quiet office. The plant hummed in the background. Steady, reliable, the sound I'd grown up with. I thought about my father, about the hours he'd spent in this office, planning, working, building something that would last. I'd protected it. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but I'd protected it. That was enough. I left the office and walked the floor. The crews were working, business as usual. A few people nodded at me. One operator gave me a thumbs up. Saw you on TV, he said. Nicely done. Thanks. Drinks on you tonight? I smiled. Sure, why not? I spent the rest of the afternoon at the plant, checking systems, reviewing orders, talking to managers, normal work, the kind of work that made sense. At 5, I drove home. The sun was setting. The radio was still talking about the story. I turned it off. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Congratulations, you earned it. I didn't respond, just deleted it. At home, I made dinner. Simple, pasta, salad. I ate at the kitchen table, alone, quiet. My phone buzzed again. Samira. Drinks at Murphy's, 7 o'clock. The team wants to celebrate. I typed back. I'll be there. I showered, changed into clean clothes, drove to Murphy's. The bar was crowded. Leo was there. Samira, other managers, some floor workers. They cheered when I walked in. The man of the hour, someone shouted. I smiled, shook hands, accepted pats on the back. Someone handed me a beer. I raised it. To the company, I said. To the company, they echoed. We drank, we talked, we laughed. For a few hours, everything was normal. Good. Right. Around 9, I stepped outside for air. The street was quiet. Cool night. Stars visible. Samira followed me out. You okay? Yeah, just needed a minute. It's a lot. It is. You handled it perfectly. I handled it legally. That's all that mattered. She nodded. What now? Now we work. Keep the company running. Take care of the people. That's all I ever wanted to do. No expansion, no big plans. Maybe, eventually. But first, stability. She smiled. Your father really would be proud. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. We stood in silence for a moment. Come on, she said. They're about to start telling embarrassing stories about you. Great. We went back inside. The night continued. Warm, easy, normal. I drove home around 11, tired, satisfied. In bed, I stared at the ceiling again, thought about everything that had happened, the settlement meeting, the fire, the briefing, the videos, the reveal. It was over. They'd tried to destroy me, tried to take everything, and they'd destroyed themselves instead. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel revenge. I just felt relief. The company was safe. The workers were safe. My father's legacy was safe. That was enough. I closed my eyes and slept. The charges were filed 3 days later. Arson, insurance fraud. Conspiracy, both Dalia and Grant. The news covered it extensively. Video clips of them being escorted from the burned building site played on loop. Legal analysts discussed their chances. Most agreed they'd be convicted. I didn't watch much of it. Didn't need to. I spent my time at the plant. Working, managing, doing what I'd always done. The Peterson contract finished ahead of schedule. The client was thrilled. Sent a commendation letter. Asked about future projects. New orders came in. The company was growing again. Stable, strong. Leo approached me one afternoon. We need to hire more operators. How many? At least 5, maybe 10 if the Hartford contract comes through. Do it. He nodded. You know what this means, right? What? The company's stronger now than before the fire, before the settlement fight, before all of it. I thought about that. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. You let go of what was holding everything back, protected what mattered. Now we're growing. We'll see. But he was right. The numbers showed it. Revenue up. Costs down. Efficiency improved. The restructuring had worked. Not just legally, operationally. Evan called with updates. Grant's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. Reduced charges in exchange for cooperation. Cooperation with what? Admitting Dalia's role. Making it clear this was a joint plan. And Dalia? Her lawyer's fighting. Claiming she didn't know Grant would actually burn the building. That she thought he was joking. The video doesn't support that. No, it doesn't. So they'll both go to trial? Probably, unless they both take deals. How long? 6 months. Maybe longer. I sighed. And the settlement claim? Completely withdrawn. Permanently. It's over, Drew. Legally, financially, completely over. Good. We hung up. I sat at my desk, looking at the photo of my father and me, the one at the furnaces. He'd built something worth protecting. I'd protected it. Now I'd keep building it. That was the job. That's what I'd signed up for. My mother visited that weekend. We had lunch at her house. Simple meal. Roast chicken. Vegetables. You look better, she said. I feel better. The company? Strong. Growing. She smiled. Good. Then her expression changed, worried. Drew, I need to ask you something. What? Do you regret it? Any of it? Marrying Dalia, the years together? I thought about it. Really thought. No. No? I learned from it. I learned what matters, what doesn't. I learned to protect what's important. That's very mature. It's practical. She laughed, soft. You sound like your father again. Is that bad? No, it's perfect. We finished lunch. Talked about other things, her garden, the neighbors, normal life. When I left, she hugged me tight. I love you. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Driving home, I felt settled, grounded. The chaos was behind me. The future was clear. At a stoplight, I saw a billboard. Advertisement for a business consulting firm. Grant's firm. His face on it. Smiling, confident. The billboard was already being taken down. Workers on ladders, removing panels. I watched for a moment, then the light changed. I drove on. That night, I sat in my home office. The safe was still locked. The envelope and USB drive still inside. I didn't need them anymore. The evidence had been used. The case had been made. The truth had been revealed, but I kept them anyway, just in case. The next morning, I went to the plant early. Dawn light breaking over the warehouses. The furnaces were already hot. First shift starting, I walked the floor, watched the metal move, the processes I'd learned years ago, the work that never changed, that never lied, that never betrayed. Steel was honest. Heat it, shape it, cool it. It became what you made it. Nothing more, nothing less. People were different. People were complicated. People lied, manipulated, destroyed. But work was simple. Work was true. I spent the day there, in meetings, on the floor, in the office, doing my job. At 5, I drove home. The routine continued. Dinner, quiet evening, sleep. Days turned to weeks. The story faded from the news. Other scandals took over, other dramas. The company kept running, growing, contracts signed, orders fulfilled, paychecks issued, normal life. The way it should be. One afternoon, Samira knocked on my office door. You have a visitor. Who? She says she's a journalist, wants to interview you about what happened. No. That's what I figured. I'll send her away. Wait. I thought for a moment. Actually, send her in. Samira raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yeah. The journalist was young, late 20s, nervous. She carried a recorder and a notebook. Mr. Holden, she said, thank you for seeing me. What do you want to know? How it feels, to have won, to have outsmarted them. I didn't outsmart anyone. I prepared for possibilities. But you knew they'd escalate. I knew they might, so I protected what mattered. The company. Yes. And now? How do you feel now? I thought about it. Relieved. Ready to move forward. Do you have any advice for people in similar situations? Protect what's yours, legally, properly. Don't fight in the mud. Fight in the courts, in the contracts, in the structures. She scribbled notes. And revenge? Did you feel that? No, I felt protection. There's a difference. She looked up. Is there? Yes. Revenge is about hurting them. Protection is about saving yourself. I wasn't trying to hurt them. I was trying to save what my father built. But they got hurt anyway. They hurt themselves by breaking the law, by thinking they could cheat the system. She nodded, wrote more. One last question. Would you do it again? The restructuring? All of it. The preparation, the waiting, the reveal. Yes, every time, because it worked. The interview ended. She thanked me, left. I sat alone in the office. Her question echoed. Would I do it again? Yes, without hesitation, because this was who I was. Careful, methodical, prepared. Old steel, they'd called me. They meant it as an insult. I took it as a compliment. Steel endures, steel lasts, steel protects, and I was steel. The trial date was set. 6 months out. Both Dalia and Grant pleading not guilty. I received a subpoena, expected I'd testify. Present the evidence. Tell the truth. The company grew. 2 new contracts signed, expansion planned. 10 new hires approved. Leo was promoted to VP of Operations. Samira took on more responsibility. The team was strong. One evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Drew Holden, I said. Silence, then breathing. It's Dalia. I froze. You shouldn't be calling me. I know, but I need to say something. Her voice was small, broken. I'm sorry. For everything. For Grant. For the demands. For the fire. Okay. Can you forgive me? I thought about it. No, not yet. Maybe someday. But not now. She hung up. I stared at the phone, then put it away. The next morning, a news alert came through. Grant Keller's lawyer announces intent to accept plea deal. Cooperation with prosecutors expected. It was falling apart for them. Everything they'd built on lies. Crumbling. Evan called. Grant signed the plea deal. He's testifying against Dalia. And Dalia? Fighting alone. She'll lose. Yes, she will. 3 months later, I sat in the courthouse waiting room. Prepared testimony. Evidence organized. They called me in. I walked to the stand, raised my hand, swore to tell the truth. Dalia sat at the defense table. She looked smaller, older, tired. Our eyes met for a moment. Then she looked away. The prosecutor approached. Mr. Holden, please state your relationship to the defendant. She's my ex-wife. I told the story, calmly, clearly. The settlement demands, the restructuring, the threats, the fire, the evidence. The prosecutor showed the videos, Grant's voice booming through the courtroom. We burned your building down. Dalia closed her eyes. Cross-examination was brief. The defense had nothing. I stepped down, walked out. Outside, Evan was waiting. Perfect testimony. It was just the truth. I drove to the plant, called a meeting. Leo, Samira, key managers, everyone gathered. I want to announce something, I said. The company is expanding, new facility, new equipment, 50 new jobs. Cheers, applause. We're going to honor my father's legacy by growing, by building, by creating something that lasts. Leo stood. To the company. To the company, everyone echoed. They filed out, back to their jobs, back to the work that mattered. I stood alone in the office, looked out the window at the furnaces, the warehouses, the metal. My phone buzzed, a message from the courthouse. Verdict reached, guilty on all counts. I read it, then put the phone away. It was over, finally, completely. I walked down to the floor. The heat hit me, the smell of molten metal, the sound of machinery. I stood there, watching the work, the process, the transformation of raw material into something strong, something lasting. This was who I was. This was what I'd protected.